But basically, you have to add a bit of. You have to,
And I literally walked home for about like 10 minutes in like this direction, and I was just like, wow, this is so I was so to go to the same place, but then we get to like oh.
There's so many web pages. Oh, it's point. Oh, I see. Right. It's about here.
I've done a comment on the last. Then another comment test for you. Yeah, I wrote comment test number. I don't know. Another day, another comment test. Oh. Not receiving his brother would be right to fix his version. Hope you like my comment test.
Sorry. All right. Okay. You're not filming this, are you? You're going out on you. Is it on A Street?
Am I going to be in your way? Am I going to be in your way? No. You just nodded, like, yes, move. Who is he? I don't know. I thought I was that ill. I don't want to risk it. So I stayed up. Also, I was a little bit tired. How you getting on?
Hello. Yes, hello. Bring the whistle. So you're right, don't worry. Andy's in the vicinity, so just a few things before we start. Toilets. But I think I'm talking to a coalition of the willing here. I'm seeing familiar faces, so I've got a feeling that, congratulations to everybody in this room, because I think you've been coming nearly every day. As for anybody else, will not speak. People. So there's going to be a raffle today. We'll probably have one raffle at the end. Andy's kindly brought along some prizes, star prize as well, a limited edition print, and Dave Palmer, who's on his way, I believe he's also got some goodies as well. So I'll tell you what they are halfway through. There'll be time to get a raffle ticket in the break. There'll probably just be one raffle, because I think this afternoon the speakers won't have any prizes. So, but it's up to you whether you want to run a raffle for him. I don't know, but we'll talk about it. But yeah, that's about it really so far. I think there's also you get your ticket stamped as well for the grand prize draw. Yes, great. I sort of jokingly said that basically there was a Toyota Yaris. Fortunately, Toyota backed out now. But Mercedes might be interested, so I'll keep you posted on that. So yeah, that's really about all I've got at the moment. I'm just trying to time run out. Do you start early or not? What do you reckon, Andy? Can you start early?
They're still piling in.
Oh, they're still piling in. Okay, I'll be back in a minute. So yeah, time to buy a raffle ticket, or go to the tuck shop or the toilet. think we're about to start, I think. So,
And they said how long you guys stay there for? It's like, here we go. Video.
brilliant. Very much. So, work. So I'm just going to introduce Andy from our studios, Preston's very own roving creative. So yeah, Andy, without further ado.
Thank you very much. I'm impressed with the turnout for this town morning. It's quite booming. Is that booming? Is it alright? Turn it down and back and talk a bit louder. Okay, here we go. I'll try and keep on script. I'm not very good at that. I tend to ping off on different directions, so apologies if I do. I'll try and get back on the script if I can. So, the event is close but no cigar. You all know what that means. And I just abbreviated it to that. Because that's really sums up my career path, which I will go through. So I'm gonna. What am I pointing this, by the way?
Anyway, you've got a little bit of echo. We just didn't know whether to actually transfer you with the microphone.
Yeah, don't mind.
What do you reckon?
Well, I have to operate two hands. I'm not sure.
What do you reckon? Is it?
Yeah. Don't mind. Is it? Just turn it. You can turn it down a bit. Is it? That's stop. That's okay. That's all right. So I've had a career with many close but no cigars. I could write a book on it, and I'm going to quickly. Well, I'm going to try and summarise my career really, because it's a bit of an unusual path that some might find inspiring, some might think it's a joke. And so it starts off with education. Now you guys are all studying, which is great. I didn't study anything. I left school with a black eye at 16 without any qualifications. The only thing I had was I could draw. I got my art at O level, that was it. And at the time, back in the day of 1982, the world was in a pretty, well, it was a pickle, not dissimilar to now, apart from we didn't have COVID. But I think there's always been troubled times going on around what we do in our industry, and it sort of inspires you a little bit. But 82 is a bit of a weird time, so I couldn't really find a job. I didn't quite know what I was doing. I went to college for a short period of time, and then until I got expelled from college, believe it or not. I must have been the only person that got expelled from college for smoking. Can you believe that? I got marched off the premises from what was called Chewson College then. Anyway, so I ended up, that was the stats in 1982, and it went through to 84. So when employment was pretty bad, trying to get a job was really quite difficult. But I got onto a thing called the Youth Opportunity Scheme, which was like an apprenticeship, really. And it was courtesy of the Tory government at the time, Mr. Norman Tebbit. And Training Labs was, well, we didn't get paid very much. And it was quite a difficult job that we got into. But I got a job as a paste-up artist at a place called Hamilton Press in Preston. And just before I forget, I've got to sort of remind everybody that the internet didn't exist then, and I had no insight about this industry that I'm now in at all. My parents didn't have a clue. So I had no guidance of where I was going with my career, so I sort of made it up as I gone along. So I ended up on a scheme, and in 1984, so 12 months into that scheme, I damaged my back quite badly, and I was in and out of hospital for about 12 months. With one thing or another, and suffered chronic back pain for many years after that, but it really rocked my confidence. I was sort of 18, 19, no idea what I was doing, working as a paste-up artist, or being trained as a paste-up artist. Now, nobody knows what a paste-up artist is, and I'll tell you in a second. So paste-up artists, basically, before the computers, everything was sort of hand-drawn and stuck down, literally pasting up onto board. So I ended up in the newspapers, and I eventually got a job at the LEP, Lancashire Creative Post in Preston, which is, it was in the town centre at the time. I don't know, that building's still there actually, I can't remember now. Anyway, that was the offices in Preston, and I thought I'd hit the big time, you know, working for the local newspaper. For me then, it was well, sort of unreachable, and I got a job because I knew the girl in the local pub who just happened to be the PA to the editor, and she got me in. It was amazing. So I got a job at the LEP, which was a real turning point for me. It was a big eye-opener. And there I am as a young paste-up artist, sticking stuff. I used to mark up all the text and galleys of text. I used to write the point size down and send it off to the typesetters, and it was really quite an intense job. There was a lot to learn, and the newspaper game in them days was massively different to what it is now. There was a lot of skilled workers that I used to work with in the studio. Every guy could draw. There were superb artists that I worked with, so it was a really great learning curve. And hang on, I'm coming to another cigar in a minute. So, but I'm 21, and there again, the world starts going to shit. And what happened was, the government at the time tried to crush the unions. So I was in a union called the NGA, and they basically destroyed the newspapers, in my opinion. But having said that, it opened up a lot more opportunities to be sort of for the design world. Without getting into politics, there was good things that came out of that. Now, the thing I could do was draw. And so I did a lot of drawing in my spare time. I was really into fantasy illustration. I used to do a lot of stuff in my own time. I used to do comic stuff, and I didn't know this. I didn't know what illustrators were then. So to me, I was a drawing. It was just a hobby, just fun. And somebody saw my work. There again, local pubs. Raised me meet in the local pub, and I got offered a job at a local gaming company as a character designer to go out and do character design for video games. So bear in mind this is 1991, right? So that's what video games look like then. And I just thought, really, I'm just not so sure, because I wasn't a gamer, never have been, never quite got my head around gaming. And I was into illustration, I was into Patrick Woodruff, Josh Kirby, Roger Dean, so obviously I was a bit of a prog rocker at the time. I was into sort of rock music, and these were my influences. So the whole game thing just looked too pixelated. So anyway, I owned an art, and they offered me a bit less money than I was earning. I wasn't earning big money, and I remember coming home to my wife, and that's what I said. So, obviously, only last month, 3 billion people, well, yeah, the stats. So, I look at that as being a bit of a cigar that I probably should have gone down that road. I probably would have been more me. But then, people say don't look back and have regrets. I've got shitloads of regrets, but that's part of life, isn't it? Just put them in a box and enjoy them and move on. So, that was number 2. So I ended up, when I worked at the newspapers, when we were pasting up the newspapers, there used to be ads coming in from outside, and that you make up in the pages. So adverts for local businesses, car companies, whatever it may be, jewellers, and they'd always have a stamp on the back. And on the back of that stamp, it sort of said such and such an agency. And I'm like, in the studio, I thought, well, what's this agency? This is when I was in the newspapers. Well, it's advertising agencies. And I didn't know what an advertising agency was. I didn't know what a design studio was. So anyway, I did my research, and there wasn't many agencies in Preston, but there was one that's a friend of mine, this guy here, Leo, who went to work at an agency, but worked at the newspapers, and he said, come and work for us. So I went and worked at this agency. So this is where my world started to open up here, because I sort of discovered that there was this agency world and design world that I never knew about. So I didn't know where my place was in that. It was just a strange time. And when I was doing the newspaper thing, I got into magic markers. I became a visualizer, what they call them. Somebody just used to visualize ideas and present them to the client. So I've got an idea, sketch it up and present it in. But I was also doing sort of illustrative work as well. So I was a bit of a go-to, get Andy to do it, because I just one of the guys that sort of plagiarised somebody normally, That's plagiarising Robert Crumb at the back end, and I was Robert Crumb, but look him up, amazing cartoonist. So, but I had a skill that got me through, but I was getting a bit jaded. I didn't like being in the studio. I get cabin fever. I can't sit still. As you can see, I keep moving around. I'm one of those people. I'm a bit wired that way. And there was a day then this came out, changed the whole dynamics of what was happening in the studio. And it was really you couldn't imagine being sat on a drawing board and all this stuff around you, pens, scalpels, paper, you know, I mean, everything was hand drawn. You couldn't imagine that little thing would change our lives. I don't think that company would exist if it wasn't for me. I might have spent that much money on Mac's systems over the years. It's just phenomenal how much money they make. But, you know, they work and they're great now, I think. But it really changed the dynamics of the studio in my eyes. And for me, it was a good bye to the magic markers. I realised I didn't want to be doing that any longer. I'd sort of trained myself up, and the Mac came in, and the whole dynamics changed. So, what's going on here? So really, it was another turning point. It was another. I've spent all this time learning this. It's going out the window. Mac systems were coming in, and I knew I needed to change direction. So that was really another bit of a cigar moment. Probably should have carried on. I would have probably been a good storyboard artist if I'd continued down that route. And looking back now, maybe that's something I should have done, but there you go, another regret for you. Okay, I might be going too fast, but I'm going to keep rocking. So, when I worked in that studio, there was a guy who came skipping in one day, and I thought, he looked cool. He rocked up in his Porsche outside, he's got his 80 ponytail, and he comes bouncing into the studio. And I went like, what does he do? And he said, well, he's an art director. And I went, I'm going to do that. So, I just decided one day I'm going to be an art director, so that's what I'm going to do. And I didn't really know what an art director was. It sort of made sense, you know. It was an add-on to what I was doing with the visualising. So well, I'm directing the art. I'm going to go and work with the photographer and direct what he's doing. So that's what I did. And that's the first art direction job I worked on, which was for a motorbike company that did spinning things in cages. So that was a bit of fun. And that sort of changed the dynamics of what I was doing completely then. I was sort of really stepping into different territory. Now, bear in mind there again, I still didn't have a massive awareness of the industry. Everything I read was from magazines and things. We didn't have the internet. But I like doing this. Come on. And but one day, one of these photographers that I worked with ended up doing a job with a guy, and he said, "Why don't you go to Manchester? That's where it's all happening. You know, just get into Manchester and you'll get a job there." So I thought, Anyway, I got on the train one day with a portfolio, and I went to an agency in Manchester, and the guy pretty much destroyed me. My confidence wasn't high anyway, and this chap really slated my work. And bear in mind, it was all newspaper stuff, so to him, I was just this sort of, I don't know, a has-been. He said I was too old, which I wasn't. I was only a kid, really, looking back. But I really wasn't really into the Manchester scene either. You know, I'm probably like the uncoolest creative ever. You know, I've never been to the Hacienda. You know, it wasn't my thing. I don't like the Smiths. You know, wasn't into Black Grey, Oasis, well, whatever. You know, I was a prog rocker. I was in a Pink Floyd covers band, and I started to get into this lot. You know, I started the whole grunge scene. That was me. I didn't really embrace Manchester, and back then as well. It wasn't what it is now. I mean, there was elements of cool. Majority of it, people couldn't wait to get out of Manchester. You know, it was one of those places. It wasn't amazing. I mean, look at Preston now. It feels like it's on the up, and I think that's what's going to happen here, personally. But you know, we need people like you to stick around and make it happen. So that was my thing. I can't remember the next slide. Oh yeah, that was us in the band. There we go, in the shed. That's as far as we got. In the highs of fame. So then, there was a period then, I sort of got into different agencies, lots of agencies, because of what had happened with the unions and all that world. Lots of smaller agencies started springing up everywhere. And you look back at the history timeline, there wasn't a huge amount of agencies early on, but then they started to spring up. People could be, you know, the Macs were coming up, and it was easier then to start off little studios. So there was a lot buzzing around. So I just went from studio to studio, and I got offered a job. I mean, I've never, all this time, by the way, I've never had an interview. I've only had one interview in my life. I seem to go from, get Andy in, he'll sort it out, he'll do that. Which I'm quite proud of, really. I've had, you know, a big career, long career. I've only had one interview. And the guy from Manchester destroyed me, so that was that. But anyway, I was the art director, self-titled. A company called Kinesis. Then I was at Encore in Blackpool in a little garage. This guy's now gone off to, he's like a creative director in Jersey, and Jersey's done really well. I worked at a place called Kinesis, then we went to the Annex, which is in Preston, I went to Cactus, which is in Kendal. Worked on all sorts of different projects over the years, but nothing massive, some really nice projects. I got wrapped in lots of catalogue work. I seem to get involved in that, sort of art directing catalogues and not fashion, corporate fashion, it wasn't high fashion. But you know, it was nice work, it was a lot of fun, out and about. And it was, yeah, so there was time is going on, you know, and all this world now, it opened up, you know, the industry's changed massively. The internet's coming in with 95, things are starting to ramp up really big now. And then kids arrive. And that's a big game changer. Not even a family, but it's a game changer. You think, ooh, this is interesting. So that's my son Tom, and that's my son Tom again. And he works with me now. He's my editor, so he's still with me, which is good. With me, back beside me. And it really started to change the dynamics. Having kids makes you think. You know, the hard work, the challenging. You need money, and I'm thinking, I need to start taking things seriously. I need to get my act together. But what was interesting is all these studios that I work with, that are all sort of friends and mates that we work with, are all similar age. And I'm going like, come on, let's, can I do this, can I do that, can I be part of the business? And nobody wanted me. And I was a bit of it was weird, everyone did their thing, but I was never sort of part of it. And I'm thinking, maybe it's me, am I just too, I don't know. Well, one of them said this to me, because there was a point where I tried to set a business up, and I basically got rejected. It's like, you're too maverick, you're too wired for me, I don't want to do it. So I never really got anywhere. So that was sort of a bit of a kick in the nuts. So all those studios that I worked with never really got anywhere. It was just a lot of learning, but I never really got to where I wanted to be. So that was a bit of a no cigar for me. That's number 4. I keep going to it. So 2002, I started to craft a bit of a business plan. So there was a marketing director at a company that was a client of mine, and he had enough, and he approached me to say, look, do you want to set up an agency, a design studio or something? I said, yeah, great, let's do it, because I want to get out of what I'm doing. He was called Shaw, my surname's Walmsley, hence Wash, that's how it came about, dead easy. Just put some letters together, that was that. And so by March 2003, we set off. I was 36 years old. I had a tiny little house, 2 kids, no money, office in the bedroom, really trying to make ends meet. And I thought, right, let's go for it. So I needed to take things seriously. So hence Wash was born. Now, there was 3 of us at the time, Andrew, Dan and myself, and these 2 guys are brothers. And we set the business up, and basically working from home wasn't popular then, but we worked from home. We didn't have a studio, didn't have any money, didn't have any clients. We just I was working part-time for another studio to earn some money, just freelancing, so we set the business up, and we just went on the road basically. We went to meetings, we went to meet people, eventually getting business, doing work on our kitchen tables. Dan's house was in a flat in Chorlton, a basement flat, so we spent a lot of time in the pub in Chorlton, which was great. We had a good time getting that business off the ground. And by 2005, 2006, we picked up McDonald's. And it was due, basically, we were already sort of in the past, I'd worked with McDonald's for a while, and we were doing, because of my catalogue work, we were doing quite a few catalogue projects in the past, and this was something I did a few years ago that's where I nicked the Wash logo idea from, but anyway. Yeah, so we sort of got this relationship with McDonald's, and when we set up Wash, we got invited in. Andrew knew one of the marketing directors, and we got invited down to London to get a brief on a job. Now, I'm just going to quickly flick back. This is a great cigar, this one. This is a cracking cigar. No, hang on. That there's a Greenpeace t-shirt. Take note. Right, so I'm at McDonald's and I get invited down to London. We got this brief, so we go away and come into concept. And the idea, this is their brand at the minute. Change a little, change a lot. And you know, McDonald's, whatever you think about McDonald's, whether you're vegan, whatever you are, eat meat, they do some great advertising, they do some great stuff. Creatively, it's like a want to do. You know, I mean, this is what's hard about this industry. You know, okay, I was a member of Greenpeace. I paid my subs. I didn't strap myself to a tree or a boat or do anything radical. I just did a sponsored walk once a year for a whale. That's about as far as I got with Greenpeace. So anyway, we were getting involved in this McDonald's project, and I came up with this concept. So the idea was we had to do this big document that was going out to the whole of Europe, to all the franchisees. And the brief was, it was like, listen, Andy, you know, McDonald's is changing. You know, we're doing lots of things now. We're getting a lot of bad press. We're getting attacked by the anti-capitalism movement. There's a lot going on. And we want to do something that's going to talk to the franchisees about how we're changing all these little things. You know, change a little, change a lot. Ironic, because we're doing that then, but they didn't really advertise it. So I came up with this campaign called If. And I thought it was really radical, you know. And I went in with this project, and it was really quite. It looked like something that Greenpeace would do. It was really quite hard. I went in with I think this is right. I'm going to go in. I'm going to be really honest. This is where I stand on it all, and I told all this story about what I think and blah 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 blah. And then can't really see it really. It's old pictures. Trying to find old stuff's really difficult. Anyway, I'm in the meeting, and I just happened to tell her that no, I want to do this. It's all about changing from the inside, changing big corporate companies from the inside. I felt quite proud of the fact. To mention I was in Greenpeace, you know. Anyway. Around that time, this was kicking off. Like I said, I'm sort of backpedaling because I wasn't a radical Greenpeace member. I just wanted to save the planet. You know, back then, I used to sit in the pub and tell everybody that the world's falling apart, and nobody listened. Anyway, that's another story. So that's what was happening at the time, and so consequently, that was the end of McDonald's. I never saw them again after that. We didn't win the job, obviously, and we didn't get a phone call from them again, obviously. Well, you know, I stuck to my morals and I stuck to my principles, and it went backfired on me massively, so there you go. But, around this time, we'd worked in construction, we got into the construction arena, because a mate of mine, the guy I did the McDonald's job with, Sean, that guy I stood with, he's an architectural photographer, so we ended up working a lot in construction, and we picked up Media City, right? So, you know, there again, you've got to remember, we're a little studio in Preston, right? So all these jobs that you're looking at, we're a little studio in Preston. We're not in London, we're not in Manchester. We seem to pick up these strange and wonderful jobs. So we picked up Media City, and this project was insane. I've just not got enough time to tell you how much we got involved in this, but it was amazing. But we were there when the first holes were being dug, you know, and the objective was to feed the BBC down in London video footage, film footage, everything to entice people to come up to Salford. So we were going on site and getting some really beautiful photography, beautiful film stuff. And we came up with this concept, and I said, look, you need to rebrand Media City because it's just not looking great. So we got asked to rebrand it. And we came up with this concept about human emotion. So I came up with this idea that, well, media really is there just to evoke human emotion. It doesn't do anything else when you think about it. What does media do? It does that. It evokes this response, whether you're watching football match, watching film, watching Coronation Street, it's all there. So I thought this was a really good concept. How am I doing for time, by the way?
20 minutes in.
20 minutes in? Christ, that's gone quick. I was gonna go off down a rabbit hole. I'm gonna pull myself back. Anyway, quick rabbit hole for you. The MD, when we presented this concept, the MD who was working at the time, I love the concept. He said, you've got to use ranking. Does anybody know who ranking is? No?
Yeah.
Yeah? Right, well, he's a big famous photographer, right? Oh, I'm going ranking. Okay, so anyway, I rang him up. I rang him, I live in Preston. I didn't get older ranking, by the way. I got all his agent or whatever. Anyway, put it this way, our budget would not stretch to his fee. It was up there, which is fair enough. He's a very famous photographer. Anyway, so we ended up with a guy called John Spinks, who's a really great photographer. We've done a lot of work in the music business and worked with Barry and blah blah blah. So we ended up working with him, which is fabulous. So we did this concept and we did all the rebrand. Frozen. I don't know what to do. Which button do I press?
I'll try this way.
Oh yeah, go on. It's a bit old this, it's really bitmap, but this was the ident we came up with, based on, I wanted something a bit Channel 4-y. So I wanted something a bit, you know, something sort of TV vibe. This logo was based on the master plan of Media City, so which was part of the MD's idea. It was a bit of a struggle, to be fair. We really had to make it work. It's a clunky logo, but when we did this whole emergence branding thing with it, it really worked. So I think, well, we've got a fantastic concept here, I thought. Anyway, so we did all these brand documents. We did a lot of work. We were doing filming. We were on that site all the time. It was phenomenal. You can see what's coming, can't you? Based on the theory of what's going on with this event, you can see what's coming. So Media City was a massive cigar that really got stubbed out hugely on the top of my head. So basically, we were doing all this work, and it was suddenly everyone started to look at Media City. At first, when it first got going, nobody really took it that seriously. I mean, that sounds weird, but the people who were funding it and building it basically had the Trafford Centre. So everyone was going like, well, they know about retail, but they know nothing about media. And when we got involved, we go into all these stakeholder meetings, and it was obvious they didn't know anything about media. Because I go to these meetings and go, look, you need to go ground up. And it's great getting the BBC here, but Media City should be a ground up. Get all the small independents, filmmakers and blah blah blah. Get all them. They didn't want to know. They didn't want to know all that. It was BBC, ITV, top down, and it's what it is today. And it's fantastic Media City, but it took a long time, and it's really started to, it's really helped the Northwest from a film perspective, but I think it could have been a lot better personally. That's just my opinion. But my opinions matter for nothing, because every time I say my opinions, I get sacked. So we got terminologically sacked from this project. It wasn't just me, it was the MD at the time. It was just a political minefield. Everyone started to look at Media City. It just became a vicious playground, and we got off the project. And I can't go into too much detail on what happened on that, but put it this way, I lost a lot of money. And not only that, when we won the job, I'll never forget this. I came out of the meeting with Andrew, and we got this 4-year contract to do all the filming, the lot. I'd never even done filming until this point, so this is my step into film, really. From going from art direction to getting a go with the camera and going, oh, let's go and film something. And I remember coming out of the meeting, and I said that to Andrew. Because Manchester was booming, it was really happening, and look at the dates. Can you see the dates? You're all probably too young to remember me, but anyway. Oh, come on, there you go. You all know what that is, don't you? The huge global crash. And my God, it came down, excuse me. It came down like a pack of cards. And how I didn't lose that business is beyond me. We were nearly back. Well, it was just horrendous. I was losing money. I couldn't pay my mortgage. I had to. Oh God! But we got through it, and I paid every supplier that I owed, and I rang them all up. I said, "Listen, mate, I'm in the shit. I can pay you, but I can only pay you 10 quid. I might have owed him 1,000 quid, but the fact I paid him that 10 quid, I got through it, and I've still got the same suppliers today. That I never, I just couldn't let that business go. Lesson learned there. Anyway, so that's where we were in 2008. And design, there's this magazine, I don't know if you know this magazine. Anyone know the magazine? Yeah. We've sent them stuff in the past, they've never published a single thing we've ever done. Sorry about the typo, I forgot that, I missed that one. Anyway, but they rang me up and asked me about Media City, and so I told them about the brand, and I told them about all this stuff, and I'm thinking, Design Week could rung me up? I couldn't believe it. So I told them everything, and I didn't know that we'd literally been popped off the job at this point. I'd not known we'd been sacked, and I didn't know another agency had been brought in to rebrand it all that looked mediocre, in my humble opinion, compared to what we'd done. At least we had a concept. They just had some sort of widget, and so I was on the phone for these guys for about half an hour telling them about the story, and then when the magazine came out, they had nothing about Wash, nothing about anything that we'd done. All it had was that quote. Made me look right buffoon. Anyway, that's Design Week for you. Sorry, I don't get Design Week. I didn't create video, don't get examined. Anyway, so that was Media City, dush, gone. So I'm on my knees at this point. I mean, I'm properly on my knees, not just, you know. And to make it worse, we'd done a lot of work in the construction industry, and because all our clients were from that world. And, you know, we were doing some amazing stuff, really fun projects, and the phones stopped ringing. I was like, where's John, where's blah, blah, blah. Everyone disappeared. They all went to Dubai or whatever they went. They disappeared from Manchester, I'll tell you that. So we lost the construction side of the business. My business was absolutely, it was really on its knees. So we were really scratching about and trying to survive for work. But we did pick up work. We had a nice little studio down at the Watermark. It was cool, it was good, you know, the team were great. The culture got us through. We entered a few awards, we won a few bits and pieces. We got a silver in the Roses Award, never been back since ourselves, we should have won that. I'm not bitter, trust me. But and then so we were getting through, but we weren't making any money. I was in debt to my eyeballs. Should have packed it in and gone and do dry stone wall building. That's what I really want to do. Dry stone wall building. Imagine that, just every day, little roll, cheeky glass of whiskey. Anyway. I've lost my thread now. Dry stone wall building. So all this stress and money, Andrew left. He decided to go and live in Finland. His wife was Finnish. You know, when we started to watch all these big dreams, we always dreamt about having an office in Helsinki. All went to shit. And that was that. So we're now into the wilderness years now. 2009 to 2014, that's 5 years. It's a long time in the business. Anything can happen. Sadly, it didn't for us. It was just a wilderness time. It was really quite an odd time. And me and Dan, who's Andrew's brother, we got on. We didn't fight, but we never talked about the business. We never came in. We were going, right, what should we do? We just sort of managed it and managed ourselves out of debt. That's what we did. We spent, must have been 3 or 4 years managing ourselves out of debt, trying to win work, pitching there, trying to win stuff. And I'm surrounded by me. I'm just in the depth of, this is just not going right there. And so we tried all sorts of different things, and we got into, this is a company called Patwork in Holland. Great illustrators, or Patswork, I think you pronounce it. I don't know how you pronounce it. Anyway, it's on there. This is one of the prizes, by the way. They've got one left of these. It's the original printed test poster that we got done. But these guys were great. Check them out, they're really good. So we got a poster done to try and make us feel happier, try and make us feel a bit cooler, a bit down with the kids. Let's do a poster. That was that. We set them out, we got a few. Doing some nice work. We did a lot of work for Wow 24/7, part of Johnston Press, a lot of work for Robert Horn, Silent Night, packaging. You know, so we're doing all right. We got our work in this book here, so if anyone's got that book, by Cancer Print, we're in there with our Clifton Harms logo, hand-drawn logo. This Mac rubbish. Preston Guild we got involved with. He was a lovely chap who rocked up to the Preston Vintage Guild. Passed away a couple of weeks ago, this guy, but he rocked up in his Teddy Boy outfit, original Teddy Boy outfit, and he was so proud, and it was a great, really great day that. So, you know, we were doing all right, but it just, it was starting to feel, the wheels were coming off basically, and Dan decided he wanted to go and live in London, but he's, you know, we'd gone down this, oh, that was another thing, sorry, quick rabbit hole. Yeah, through all this period we're talking about here, you've got to remember now the internet is really ramping up now. And every event I went to in Preston, bear in mind, I'm on my knees, business is like clawing through. Everything I went to, oh Andy, you should be a digital agency, you know, you should be doing websites, and you should be doing this, and you should be doing that. I would rather go and do dry stone wall building than do a website. Honestly, I hate web. Sorry, any people who do web. You spent years doing this thing, you know, this epic stuff and photography and big, and then it's all scrunched into a website. I don't like websites, and the technology at the time was changing rapidly, you know, because we were doing websites in Flash and all that stuff, and it was all going out the window, and anyway, things were changing, but we had this digital team and that didn't really work, and yeah, the business was really starting to fall apart, and then Dad said, right, I'm going to go and live in London, let's set up an office in Shoreditch, and I went, okay then, maybe it's a last ditch attempt to save the business. So we set up an office in Shoreditch in a communal shared space. And, you know, I'd go down to London and I felt like Jack the Lad walking through Clerkenwell and wherever it was, and Shoreditch. I'm thinking, yeah, it's cool this. I've no money, but I'm here in London. What am I doing here? And it was just a weird thing. And I'm a Preston guy. I love where I live, and I'm proud of where I live. And I don't see why you can't have. My theory was, why can't you do cool work in a city like Preston, or then, you know, sort of town back then? But you know, why are we seen as parochial backwater nitwits? Are we seen as that? I think we are. Maybe not. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but a little bit. You know, if you say, "Oh yeah, my studio's in Preston," it's like, okay, see you. You know, if you go into a, you know, anyway, that's another story. So that was it. That was the end of the business partnership. Dan decided he wanted to do his own thing. When he was in London, he got in bed with another guy, not literally, but this you know, business-wise, sorry. And then that was that. I knew he was doing something else, and so that was it. I bought Dan out, and I suddenly had this business on my own. So the London thing, that was that. That cigar was snubbed out in a nice little bar somewhere in. No, I didn't get a cigar, did I? Sorry. Anyway, in the midst of all this, I'm not that far off, sorry, time-wise. While Dan was sort of exiting stage left, coming in from this side was one of my construction contacts that I met a few years ago. Suddenly became the head of construction at Jaguar Cars, right? And he's built the new Jaguar plant, the whole thing. And he's on the phone, he said, and he's from Bolton. I said, I've been doing this job. I sound like Tommy Cooper then. Sorry, it doesn't sound like Tommy Cooper. And he said, I've been building this new Jaguar plant, and we need this art piece on the side of the building. And I'm thinking, art piece? Anyway, I'm thinking we've got to go for this. And he said, yeah, you've got a reasonable budget, and the budget was pretty good. So I'm on the bike, I'm cycling around the trough, thinking, how am I going to do? I'm not an artist. I came up with this idea of this sort of dynamic digital screen. And it didn't look like that in my plans. It was all sort of modular and 3D. It was a lot better than this, to be fair. Although this is great, but my original idea was fantastic, but you would have needed about £3 million to build it. I didn't have a clue. You know, I was ringing people in China, you know, LED companies, to say, how am I going to deliver this? Anyway, we ended up winning the project, and we ended up working with a company called ADI in Preston. So I don't know whether they're doing a talk here this week, but anyway, interesting business, ADI. But they work in large format digital screen, and they built the thing for me. And I got introduced to the marketing guy at Jaguar, and I'm thinking, flipping heck, this is amazing. And suddenly we're doing all this work. You know, we had to not only did we have to build the screen, we had to deliver all the content for it as well. So we were going out. You know, we took down to the test tracks at Jaguar. We were having some fun with these cars. It was a really good time. Built this thing that gave me no end of sleep. I had to bloody put my house down as a guarantor to make sure the guys were going to get paid. You know, bearing in mind I literally started to get myself out of debt. Wasn't quite out of debt. Had to win this job to get out of debt. I'm not going to do this job unless you do this, and I haven't got any money. Well, you need to sign this and put me more. Christ, if this goes tits up, I've lost my house and everything. You know, I didn't tell my wife, by the way, but anyway. It was all nonsense anyway, because he was going to get paid. It was Jaguar, for God's sake. But having said that, they took his mum's, did take a long time to pay. You could edit that out, but anyway. So we were doing, you know, we did this. You know, the marketing guy said, oh, I've got this car that Debbie Beckham's been driving in for the adverts. He said, what can you do with it? So, well, let's, you know, that was the colour range of the F-Type. And I said, let's just throw some paint over it. It'll look great. We'll film it in slow motion and we'll just trash the car and put it on the screen. It'll look brilliant. He went, great. So we did that, and it was just fun. We just did all this stuff. He said, do you want that car after we'd done it? And I was going to put it on the back of a truck and put it in the Watermarks reception. Can you believe that? It never came off, unfortunately, but it would have been funny, that hanging sort of. But yeah, there we go, throwing paint. But we did all sorts of different things. You know, we did lots of different film content for the screen. And then I got a phone call, and Adam, who's our ambassador for this project, and he was a great guy, and I'm thinking, God, I've got him a Jaguar. Oh, this is fantastic. I'm leaving. What? few things happening at Jag. I'm off. So, that was that. Literally, the guy, nobody at Jaguar, so I'm not interested in the screen. You know, I don't even still if it still works. No idea. I've not driven past it since. I was so gutted. So that was that. That was the end of Jaguar, and the whole marketing team changed, and we didn't get a look in because we were from Preston. So anyway, the people had left, the team had changed. I'd moved on. Becky joined us, and Lindsay, who was sort of account management when Dan was there, but she sort of really took the reins, and now is my business partner and MD. And we really turned the business round. We were pitching a lot. We pitched a lot in education actually, which is, you know, ironic for me considering I don't particularly like education. But anyway, we seem to have done well in it, and it really got us out of a pickle. And the business started to move, and we got tired of our old premises. And you know, Lindsay said to me one day, "Look, Andy, you know, you need to think about your future and pension and get out of this pickle." I managed to get a decent cash, you know, decent pay for the Jaguar project. It was quite a lucrative project, and so I invested it in a building in Winkley Square. So we now own our own studio, so I'm not paying rent out anymore. It was a whole new start for us. We got this number 16 Winkley Square, and we're now the Artistry House, and it's in there. We've got interior designers, we've got us, we've got all sorts of things happening. We do events, we do creative events, and well, that was going pretty good. It's going pretty good now, but obviously we've had COVID. But there you go. But so that was a whole change for us. And in the middle of all this momentum that started to build, Adam, who was from Jaguar, rang me up one day. "Hi Andy, I'm now at Hyundai." "All right. Can you fly out to Czech Republic and do some filming?" "Absolutely." So off I went. And this is really the start of the film stuff. So ages ago when I said I want to be an art director, now I want to be a film director. I've moved on. That's my next mission. Right? I want to do a film. That's my thing. Anyway, I'll come to that later. But anyway, so we're out with Hyundai, doing lots of stuff. You know, car badges, events, different things. It was really coming, and then suddenly this thing came rocking up. And this is the i30M. And Adams went, he said, "Look, you know, do you want to, I got the car," and I said, "Look, just give me the car, let me have a go in it." So he gave me a car, and I went flying around the Trafford Bowling in it like a lunatic. It was that car was the best thing. It was like, I remember waking up in the morning, I was like a kid again. It was phenomenal. And I don't know if anyone's had a Scale Electric, you know, when you wake up in the morning, you want to play with that car, you want to get it on the track. My wife I just disappeared every morning. I was off around the trough. And I blew it, I wrecked it. Yeah, that's another story. I'm not going to anyway, so I got the car and I got Sean, so let's go and do some photography. So we went out and did this photography for them, blew their minds away. I thought, "Oh, it's fantastic, it's great." So we said, "You know, that's fine." And then they said, "Look, Andy, would you like to pitch for the i30M TV commercial?" I've never done TV before. "Absolutely, we're going to give it a go." Yeah. So anyway, we pitched. And there again, sticking to my principles and my beliefs, I thought, well, I don't want to just win with any mediocre idea. I want to go and knock their heads off with something that's not been done before, because that's the way I am. And that was backfired, and I've lost work over the years for it, but at least I can go, well, that's what I stuck to. And you might need to press this. So I anyway, I presented that, and the room was full. You know, I had two guys from the career headquarters and the main marketing team, And I said, look, you know, in the brief, it said this car's aimed at petrol heads. And why don't we do a campaign? Why don't we create these characters, these petrol head characters? And we presented about 6 ideas in, but this was the last idea that I came up with one night, sat in front of my stove one night. I don't smoke anymore, but I did then. I was like puffing away, bottle of wine. I've got to get this. I've got to win this. And I just came up with this idea. No, surely someone's done a petrol head. It's an obvious one. And I couldn't find anything. And so I came up with these characters, and we developed this through a mate of mine, the cunning craftsman, Chris, who's a great artist. He helped me create these characters. But I had to really craft them. And I've never come out with this before, because nobody actually knows the backstory to the characters. I'm going to tell you quickly. So I came up with Beamer, Snoop, and Cogsworth. And Beamer was obviously based roughly on a BMW engine, the 1 Series. Snoop was roughly based on a Golf, and Cogsworth was based on the old Ford Cogsworth car. So these 3 characters, and the whole idea was about a debate about whether this car was any good or not, because petrol heads are all obsessed with, like, you know, certain brands, you know, Fords, STs, Golfs, and they're all going to go, yeah, that end's not going to be any good. And I drove that end, and I was a bit of a petrol head, and I knew we would turn heads, so it was a bit of a no-brainer. So we came up with these characters, and you know, we did basically, when we won the project, I got the phone call from Graham, said, right, Andy, you've won this job. I remember sitting in the studio like tea, and thinking, my God, I can't believe it. The little studio in Preston, we just won a Hyundai TV commercial. And then I shit myself, how am I going to do this? I have no idea what I'm going to do. So luckily, Lindsay had worked at another agency in Leeds, and she did a lot of work in TV stuff, and she had a relationship with Chief Productions in Manchester. So we got hold of them, and they did the first commercial for us. But yeah, it was a phenomenal time. And can we play that one? This is the first advert that Chief did, actually. Let's quickly show you this. And it was a bit of I didn't want to do a typical car advert, so I was adamant I wanted to shoot it in this country. Got to play it, yeah?
Introducing the i30N by Hyundai.
So that advert smashed their records on their internet. They had the biggest hits, or whatever it was. All the stats that they gave me, they'd never had something as responsive as that. It was incredible. And they were sort of talking about us doing a 4-year campaign with the petrol heads. So I'm thinking, fantastic. Sorry, I know I'm running out of time, so I don't want to show everything actually. I'll just quickly. They did a lot of we did all sorts of little stings. Oh, can I quickly show this one? Sorry, something quick. So we did all these little stings that followed it. All CGI, by the way. I'm in the distance there, I was on the extras in the back. Tried to show that one. I couldn't move. I got sat there and I'm thinking, great, and I'm thinking, I wasn't the director on this, but I was glued to the director, a guy called Mike Capone, and I was glued to him, and he was a lovely guy, because we ended up getting horrendously drunk together, because I just couldn't let go of it, because I thought, I want to be director, I'm not going to be able to do my idea. But anyway, yeah, we did a lot of stings. And the final advert we did, just quickly show this one. This was with a company called 2AM in London. This was the second advert. We went out to Spain to do this, out to Palma, which was a fantastic trip. Great, really good time. Go on, you can play it. So that was the second commercial, and they were dressed in, the main character was dressed in Steve McQueen. It's the same outfit he wore in Bullet, which Bullet was the first fastback car that was ever on the big screen. That's hence the the connection. Nobody knew that, but that's just my little thing. She was dressed as Faye Dunaway in the Bonnie and Clyde film, which was a road trip movie, and the other guy was dressed as Edward Fox in some other movie. I can't remember what it wasn't. And we got the work up on Piccadilly Circus, London. I went down on my daughter, and I just remember stood there thinking, wow, used to be a pasty artist at LEP, and I've got my work on. And yeah, I can't believe it. Took me on my wife, right? But anyway, I'm there. And I remember stood next to this guy, and I said, that's my advert. And he went, yeah, fuck off. Seriously. He thought I was a weirdo. Oh, I'm a weirdo, but it's just so funny. Anyway, then this came along. And the whole market was changing, car market was changing rapid. New MD comes into Hyundai, marketing team disrupted, everyone leaves, petrol heads goes in the bin. So it was like, are you having a laugh? It's like, I've just created, I think, a fantastic campaign. It's got so much mileage, we could really do a lot with this. We could even have a debate about an electric car. No, all that canned. And it was a real, for me, it was that was my biggest, non-cigar. I think the contract should have gone on for another 4 years at least. I think it would have been great. But the world's changing in the car market, so that was that. Everybody left, same again. Anybody there? No. And that was the end of Hyundai, unfortunately. And that's just life. Things move on. And then that happened. COVID, and we all know what's happened in the last 2 years. So momentum then got a kick in the teeth, and that's probably the biggest problem. But out of the blue, in the middle of lockdown, MG rang and said, look, one of the guys went from Hyundai over to MG. I love your work. Can you pitch an idea? So there again, I didn't want to do something straightforward. I wanted to imply that the fact that maybe if you drive a diesel engine, you're a bit of a dinosaur. So we had a bit of fun. In COVID as well, there was lots of is it memes or whatever they're called, stuff flying around on the internet. People dressed as dinosaurs. I don't really know if you plot that or not, but I thought, that's cool. I'm going to nick that idea. So I did, and we did. And we went and filmed that in Wales, and we did dinosaurs within about. It was hilarious. The advert, you can see the advert, so I'm not running out of time. But obviously, that's what happened in COVID. There was a lot of, in and outs, people working from home. It became difficult. Dave, my contact at MG, in the middle of all that, left MG. So, and then the next guy came in, had a relationship with the agency, and they'd just done a new commercial with a company called M3, which is fine. And that was the end of MG. And I'm still here today, a broken man. So that's pretty much it. I think all I wanted to say was, I know I'm sorry, just riddled through my career, there's lots of bits in between, but I think it's, if you guys are coming into the creative industries, I think you've got to be aware of what's around you, politically, what's going on, in the climate around you, because there's always going to be problems, might be at war tomorrow with Russia, who knows, but I hope not, but there's always something. Use it as fuel to sort of divert and change. Technology's changing rapidly, so try and not necessarily change with it. Don't be running after the golden egg, golden goose, whatever the phrase is like. I never did that. I stuck to my principles, and it's took me a long time, but it's it's paid off. I'm not in debt anymore. Let's put it that way. And looking back over that 40 years I've been working in the industry, it's a long time. And I'm not somebody who's I didn't want to come here like a lot of people. Probably like the next guy who's coming on. Where is he here? Yeah. Yeah. Andy Warmelpack, by the way. Hi, I'm Andy. So great agency, by the way. But I think, I've done it the hard way, I think. I think having a studio in Preston, having a small studio, it's been tough. But, I've proved you can do it if you keep slugging at it. And like I said, next stop, I want to be film directing. So, see what happens. Thank you very much. At 16, I was into two-tone, and I was into into sort of like the special AK and all that. That was really into the massively great record collection. Went in hospital, we're back, came out pro rocker. I think it was the drums.
We've got time for a few questions. A couple of questions. Well, you answered everybody's question.
I don't know. Go on. Dry stone wall building.
What's your interest? I just want to ask, like, throughout all the missed chances, what helped you keep your momentum?
Oh God.
What helped you keep your momentum for all the missed chances?
I don't know. I think a lot of it early on, I think was just the drive with the kids thing. That's why I put the kids in. It was a bit of a, for me, working in the business at the time, to my detriment really, looking back, but all I was bothered about was giving them a good holiday. We used to go on camping holidays in the Alps, and I just wanted to get there and, you know, put the tent in the back and get there and give them a decent set of presents at Christmas. I know it sounds cheesy, that was it. And because I got myself into the financial pickle through no fault of my own, that was another driver. I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to be one of these businesses that just folded and, you know, left everybody in debt. For me, I just didn't fancy that. Just, you know, I know you can do it as a limited business. You can shut shop and bugger off and set up tomorrow. And there's a lot of agencies that do that, and that wasn't for me. And anything can happen, you know. I might still have to do that one day, but I don't want to get myself in that situation. So that, yeah, part of the motivation.
I don't know if this works. Shout.
Would you say you should stick with your ideas and don't settle for less? Like, even if it means losing a job or opportunity?
Yeah, definitely. I've lost a few. And, I mean, Manchester Civil Justice Centre that was on there, that was another job. I mean, the climate makes people react in different ways. So, you know, when people are under pressure and you do something, it's like the McDonald's thing, they're under pressure then. And for me, Spartan Off Hours in Greenpeace was probably one. I thought I was doing the right thing, because for me it was about change within. She thought must have been some radical, I don't know, you know, she panicked maybe, I don't know, but we definitely got the hoof. But I've always stuck to my principles. At Media City, Manchester Civil Justice Centre was a building that was built in Manchester, and it was designed by the architects to work with the natural light, right? So I'm there with my photographer, I was doing a book for them. That's it. Look at the screens in the back. I'm going to fight. See, kids!
I think it's just a test. So you're in Media City.
Yeah, no, I was doing, so Manchester Civil Justice Centre was the law court, and we were documenting that building. And we did a little film documentary on it, and I was doing a book. And I read the coffee table thing, and I was with my photographer, who's a fantastic architectural photographer. Look him up, Sean Conboy, from photography, he's brilliant. And he's all about natural light, that's his thing. Anyway, some joker rocked up at Civil Justice Centre and photographed it all for free, right? And did it all in HDR. Is it HDR? That stupid shit where you just have multiple exposures and it makes something weird. Anyway, apologies if you like that, but I hate it. And this guy rocked up with these images, HDR. Anyway, and they were crap. And I went to the client and I went, you can't use them. They're not real light. It's just nonsense. And he sacked me off the job. And that was with a company, big company. And he said to me, I've no time for pretentious art directors. And I thought, I'm not pretentious. I'm just thinking, that's shit. That's my job. Why are you going to do that when the whole building is designed through natural light. Why would you use photography that's not natural light? It didn't make any sense to me. So I've always been like that, and that's probably why, in some respects, I've never considered myself really part of the industry that I'm in. I've always sort of rebelled against it a little bit. I don't like to be seen as, you know, your typical hipster agency dude who's like, you know, and it's not me. I want to be me. So if people can't accept that, then you don't win the work. And I've lost a lot, but I've gained a lot as well. You know, it's like the Hyundai thing. I've never got that if I've got told the corporate line, and I'm so proud I've done it. You know. So.
Thank you.
Once went for an interview. Sorry, quickly. digressing again. Once we pitched to O'Neill surfing brand. Right, here's one for you. Don't change who you are, right? So early on in Wash, it was just around about the Media City thing. You can see I've got short hair, and I've always had long short hair. It depends when I get bored of it. But we had an interview at O'Neill, the surfing brand, and you know I'm an outdoor guy. I've spent my life outdoors. I'm not a surfer, but I've always been an outdoor. Anyway, 'cause it was a new business. I bought a shirt and I got this jacket, this shit jacket, and I cut my hair. And I look like a salesman. And I went to O'Neill. To the pitch, and I went down there, and I remember the guy coming down in flip-flops and surfing. Hey man, coming in, and he looked at his watch, he thought, well, I'm going to give this bozo 5 minutes, and he's out the door, and literally that was it. It was just weird. And I think trying to change for your client, to me, is a bad step. You've got to stick to what you are. Sorry. Right.
Any more questions? Is there any more questions? Or? I think time-wise, what we're wrong time, aren't we? 10 minutes?
Just at 11, so yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
Chance for coming.
no,
Great turnout.
big round of applause.